Today we're looking at how you make your connection with your THG wire clip insulator set to your THG element. Here we have some 6-inch THG element. We have our cord set with the eyelets. Note that the eyelets have a strain relief that actually holds onto the insulation so that it takes the strain off of the copper wire cable itself. We have our scissor. Any old regular reasonably sharp scissor will work. We have our 4 insulating squares, peel off back, our 4 pieces of rivets, 2 male, 2 female. We have our crimping pliers, which make it a lot easier to make these connections and make good solid connections. And we have our hole puncher. Now a standard school type paper hole puncher will work just fine if you're only making a few connections. This is more of a professional type hole puncher, and note that it has a depth gauge on it built in that you can set the distance in from the edge that your holes are being punched, which can be very useful if you're making a lot of connections. Okay, this was the 6-inch THG element. First thing you'll notice about it is that it has black lines every, I don't know, about 1/4 inch apart. Whenever you cut your element, you always want to make sure that you cut it between these black lines. The black lines are actually the heat element that conducts the electricity between the 2 copper bus bars. The 2 copper bus bars here are what carry the current that powers all of the black lines in your length of element. You can use pretty much any scissor to cut your element. You can cut in between any of the black lines. So let's say I just want to cut off a couple of inches here to make sure that it fits in my rack. I can do that. One thing to remember is if you are cutting a piece of heat tape that's already installed, always double check to make sure your power is disconnected to it, or you're not going to like what happens. Now we're going to punch the holes in our element. To do this, you can use a Sharpie or other marker, and also a regular school type paper hole puncher. We're going to use the professional puncher that has the feeler gauge on it that sets the distance back from the edge of the heat tape that you're going to punch your hole. So the easiest way to do this is to make yourself a couple of marks, one on each bus bar, approximately 1/4 inch in from the edge, like that. Then you need to actually punch your holes. So we're going to line this up over the marks that we made, punch our hole like that. Now we're going to do the other side. You want to center it in the bus bars best you can, like that. So that's going to leave us with our 2 holes, 1 in each bus bar. Okay, so now we have our element and we've punched our holes. Now what we need to do is insert the eyelets actually into the laminate. Now if you look closely, you can see the laminate, when I curl it, start to separate right there. Okay, so again, there's really no top or bottom to the heat tape. You can do this whichever way is more comfortable for you. I find it a little bit easier to separate this laminate with the copper side up, and then I curl it down like that. Now we need to insert the eyelet in between the layers of laminate. Don't know if you can see that, but in between the laminate is critical. You do not want it outside the laminate. You want to line up the hole in your eyelet with the hole that we've already made in the heat tape. Now we take the male rivet, which is the taller one, we insert it from the bottom through the hole, and it will kind of hold itself in place while you go get the female part of the rivet, the top, and we lay that on top like that. Now we need to crimp it. So at this point you come in from the side and you want to smush your rivet completely. So now we have a flattened rivet, and this is the way you can test your connection to make sure it's a good connection. Is we're trying to pivot this the eyelet on the rivet itself, and it's very, very difficult to do. It just doesn't have any play or movement in it. So that's a good solid connection. Now we need to repeat this on the other side. So same thing again. We have our eyelet, and we need to get it in between the layers of laminate, like that. We line up our holes. The male rivet comes from underneath and through. We hold that there. The female cap to the rivet goes on top. Now we get our pliers again, and we're going to come in from the side. We're going to smush it. So again, we have a smushed connection. Rivet is flat on both sides, and our eyelet will not pivot on that rivet. It's very solid. That gives us a good solid connection on the eyelet itself that's up inside this laminate up against the copper. So there's really no movement in it, there's no arcing or anything. A loose connection of any kind when you're dealing with heat tape is a bad thing. That's how you can end up with some sparking or cause other problems, even a fire, if it's a bad enough connection over a long enough time. So next step, which is important, is we're going to insulate this connection. So we have our rivets and our wire installed, and this is a piece of our connecting insulation tape. Now it's important, you want to line it up with the edge of the heat element so that you don't have a lot of excess off the edge, and stick it underneath, like on the bottom side of the heat tape. Now notice that we're covering this entire metal connection area and some of the wire itself, and also the heat tape, like that. Next step is to take the second half of that and set it on top. Line it up with the first piece so that your edges are square and lined up and you're not having a lot of the sticky part of the tape exposed. Smush it down, and here now we have a sealed up connection. Let's do that on the other side. So again, we're going to want to line it up with the edge of our heat tape so we don't have a lot of excess sticking off the edge. We want to cover the entire electrical connection, stick it to the heat tape. Then we need to put the top half of our insulation on. We square that up with the original first piece that we put on. Rub it down. And there we have a connected piece of heat element. Alright, so here we have our connected piece of THG element. A couple of tips for you before you make your final installation in your rack or cage. The first is you may want to insulate the unconnected ends at the other end of the heat tape. And the way we do that is we use regular vinyl electrical tape available at about any hardware store. And we want to fold this over the bus bar ends like that. This will prevent any moisture or condensation, just about anything really, from getting into the ends there where the electrical current is. And another tip for you, a lot of times you will want to use the aluminum foil tape to actually secure your heat tape in your rack setup. This foil tape is generally used for heating and air applications, but because of its temperature resistance, works very well and doesn't degrade over time. But when you use it on your heat element, you want to make sure that you do not cross over your bus bars or your actual black element lines. You want to just stay on the clear edges, something like this, of the heat element to secure it in place. So it's also important you don't cross over uninsulated ends here with aluminum tape. It's just an electrical safety hazard or potential one. So remember, just stay on the edges and everything will work out great.